So we got a very particular reading of Lacan in the 1970s and 1980s. This was based on a selection of the écrits. The English version of Lacan's work was 3 times the length of that published in the UK for many years, and it was only last year that a new translation of the complete écrit came out, so that we can now read the whole thing. I know this is available in Hong Kong if you're interested. It's not necessarily the best place to start. Okay? If you're going to read Lacan, always keep in mind that the écrit, the papers in the écrit, are often the summation of a year-long seminar. Okay? They are very dense, very elliptical, very, very theoretical. Right? And they summarize a whole body of work over a year or over a couple of years. And if you start, if your first encounter with Jacques Lacan is in the écrit, you'll probably give up. Right? It's so difficult to read. It's much easier to begin reading the seminars which are gradually being published that Lacan gave for 26 years. Each year, he would take the first 10 years, he would take a text of Freud or a concept in psychoanalysis, and he would spend a year working this through, all right, with the analysts in his training, the analysts in his school, or later in the university itself, from 1964 onwards. And it's much easier. Again, the seminar is a very peculiar read. All right? Don't expect a normal book. It's, the seminars are essentially reprints of the stenograph recording of Lacan's seminar. Right? And then, this sort of would diverge and go all over the place. All right? So he would start with sort of, today I'm going to talk about so-and-so, and he would not talk about it at all. He would talk about something completely different. All right? But if you persevere with the seminars, at some point they will make sense. He always manages, at the end of each presentation, usually, you'll have 10, 12 pages, and you'll just think, what's he going on about? Well, at one point he's talking about his dog. Another point he's talking about quantum physics. At another point he's talking about biblical exegesis. I mean, what's the guy going on about? And then just as he sort of says, okay, sorry, we don't have much time left. What was I going to say today? Yes, I was going to talk about this, wasn't I? Well, here it is. In 2 lines, very clearly, he will just say what it is that he was supposed to say. All right? It's great. So the seminar is worth reading, but the seminars themselves are being published in a very strange order. The first seminar to be published was Seminar 11. All right? Out of 26, the first one to go into print and the first one to be translated was Seminar 11. Why Seminar 11? Very briefly. Seminar 11 is from 1964. 1964 was a year that Lacan moved his seminar from St. Anne Hospital, where he was working with medical practitioners. He moved his seminar to the university, the École Normale Supérieure. Okay? So he moved his seminar from an analytic and a medical audience to an audience of students, particularly philosophy students. Right? So the discourse changed. It became more difficult at this point. Also, Seminar 11 was when Lacan stopped doing exegesis on Freudian texts and started really developing his own work in opposition or against sort of some Freudian concepts. He started to diverge from Freud much more. So Seminar 11 is quite complicated as well. All right? It's quite a difficult text to read, but it is very, very good. Seminar 11 was published, then the early texts were published. Seminar 1, Seminar 2, Seminar 3 came out in quite quick succession. These are from the 1950s and from the heyday of structuralism. So when Lacan came into the universities in the UK, everyone was reading Lacan as a structuralist. Okay? Everything is reducible to language. The subject is the subject of the symbolic order, it's constructed by the symbolic order, and everything is in language. Right? So throughout the 1970s and throughout the 1980s, we had a particular reading of Lacan, which was a structuralist, linguistic reading of Lacan. And it was really Slavoj Zizek, with books like Looking Awry and Enjoy Your Symptom, that shifted the whole focus of Lacanian studies. He was crucial in the shift of focus to the later seminars of Lacan, right? Notions of jouissance, notions of the real, notions of surplus pleasure, right? And he reorientated the study of Lacan and how we understand Lacan. Right? So Zizek was crucial in doing this, and through these early books popularized the late reading of Lacan. This was important, right? But as I said, what is problematic now is how influential Zizek has been, because his particular take and his particular stress on late Lacan is very different from the orthodox Lacanian understanding of this. Now, if you take one volume, for example, of collected essays which came out last year or the year before, called Traversing the Fantasy, in this book you'll find essays by Yanis Stavrakakis and Russell Gribb highlighting the problematic nature of Zizek's relationship to Lacan through his conception of the act. And I want to talk about this notion of the act. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Please feel free to interrupt me. I'm digressing quite a lot from my paper because I'm not sure how much you know about this history.
Just a quick question. Are we taught most of his work is in English? And does that affect his discourse, what language he was using to write in?
Well, talking this, writing this quickly, one effect of this is what I said earlier, repetition of things. Another is some of the books are appallingly written. All right, some of Zizek's works are, terrible, very, very sloppy, very badly written. Now, I was talking to friends in Slovenia about this, and they sort of said, "Oh, don't worry, he writes badly in Slovenian as well." So, I don't think it does. No, his books, I'm talking about the books translated into English. I mean, his books, he writes, he has a lot of work out in German, he writes in Slovenian, he also in French. He's an extraordinary figure in this sense. I don't think it does affect him, no. He does write in English, he thinks in English, he works in the US quite a lot. Or he spends a lot of time in the US and in the UK where he has academic positions. So I don't think this matters. I mean, he must talk French fluently. He was analysed by Jacques-Alain Miller, Freud, Lacan, sorry, interesting flip. Lacan's son-in-law and the president of, not president, the sort of top figure in the World Association of Psychoanalysis. So he studied Jacques-Alain Miller's seminars. He also talks fluent French. He writes in German. So he's just extraordinary. But it's no, he writes the same in every language. He writes as quickly, as sloppily, and as badly. And I think it also depends on who edits his books. So, for example, if you look at something like The Parallax View, which has just come out by MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology Press, I mean, this is really well written. Okay, he's clearly had a very good editor on this. But this is much more to do with who is editing. Whereas some of the books that come out reverso, for example, which they throw out 2 a year, some of them are just awful. Okay. I want to talk a bit then around this notion of the act. It's a crucial category for Zizek. It's a crucial category for Zizek's politics. It is also crucial in relation to psychoanalysis. I don't know if this came up in the previous